Okay, hi everybody. I want to welcome you to another edition of Backstage at UIC, and we're talking about Reverb, which is the first production of this season. It's unique and extraordinary. If you've watched my other interview with the playwrights, you know how unique and extraordinary it is. It's very different from any kind of theater we're doing here, and we're really trying to roll with the times and do something really special. I've got two of the creative forces behind this very special piece of work here, Jessica Fisch and Monty Cole. And I would like to start off by just asking both of you to sort of introduce yourself, say, what your part in this process was, and maybe give a little sense of what it's been like for you, this amazing Reverb. So
Uh,
Jessica, start us out.
yeah, sure. Well, I've been an adjunct professor at University of Illinois Chicago for a couple of years, and Yasin has been trying to get me to come on board to direct the students, which I have wanted to do for a long time. And we were going to finally make it work in the fall of 2020. So many things were going to happen in 2020, and then I was supposed to direct a play called MarieAnge by David Ajmi, but other things happened that we all know about. The pandemic happened, and there was a point about May when it was becoming clear that I'm like a deeply pessimistic person. I'm like an optimist and a pessimist in equal parts, but I'm a realist. And so I called Yasin and I said, we have to pivot. We should pivot right now. And he was like, no. I was like, no, we have to pivot right now, like right now. Um, and to Yasin's credit and to Christine's credit, I said, look, I think that there is the possibility of making something really exciting if we get creative and we start right now. And the department sort of went with that. And so we started working on the show that would become Reverb, I want to say actually almost in April. So we started thinking about what it would mean to create something with the students that was entirely filmed remotely, social distanced. And at the time, we didn't even really know what all that meant. But it was many months of planning to get to a place to produce the work that hopefully people will watch in the next couple of weeks. So I've been the director of the project. And my job has been to really curate the work that came in from the writers, herd the cats, and kind of facilitate the work of some really amazing artists behind the scenes to make this happen. I had the great fortune of getting to bring Monty Cole on board when it became clear that we needed Monty. And so he came on right as we were about to curate the scripts and take it from a huge file of work that had come from the writer's room and start to figure out what that pile wanted to get culled down to and what the sort of ultimate shape and form of Reverb wanted to be. And so Monty has been my creative partner in the last couple months Monty, as we figure out how to make work like this.
Monty, take it from there. What's your experience of this so far?
I think the best title I can give myself for this is Jess's creative partner. Because I'm a guest director. I think official title is guest director and film coordinator, but a lot of it has been sort of I'm a writer director in theater. I've worked at Steppenwolf and Goodman and around the country, but lately I've been pivoting into film, as a lot of other artists have. And so I spent the early part of my quarantine. There's literally a stack of books right behind your heads of like my film school that I put myself through in the last few months. So it was a really great opportunity to start to apply that, but also apply it with theater artists. So it's like combining these languages that I have, one that I have had for a very long time and one that I was starting to gather over the quarantine. And just also to experiment. I mean, we are experimenting just as much as the Hollywood top brass is experimenting. I mean, I would say that a lot of my goal was also to just make sure that our sets were safe and that we were, I had to submit activity plans as to how we were going to create places of safety in our sets, especially if we were going to shoot on location. But a
Mm-hmm.
lot of it was shooting in actors' homes, where actors had to get their own equipment dropped off with them, and they had to kind of train themselves as to how to make themselves look good, but also how to film themselves through all these different environments and all these different scenes. And us on Zoom being like, all right, what if you move your camera? So it's been a crazy process, but also I think it's such a both very, very creative and also very safe at the same time, which I've been happy about.
Fabulous.
That-
Just,
Oh,
go ahead.
I was just going to say that Monty said the magic word of the whole project, that I just feel like feels so appropriate for the work that we're doing. We talk a lot about it being an experiment. It's like a grand experiment.
Mm-hmm.
Universities are the place to do experimentation, and it doesn't just happen in science labs, right? You're not just experimenting in a science lab. That universities are the place to be the incubator and experimenters of the next form of the American theater, because what even are we making? And so we've been talking a lot about how this form is experimentation, and that is so artistically fulfilling right now.
Yeah, I'm glad you used that word form. You just used that word several times, and that leads me to talk about the form of this piece, which is unusual in so many ways. I mean, I've read the plays. I mean, for those who are just sort of coming to this, and students, for example, who are tuning into this and saying, what is this piece? Is it a play per se?
No.
Well, I mean, one way of describing it is it's a series of short plays, but and monologues. But there's something even beyond that in terms of the way that people are intended to view this. And I wonder if you could sort of break down what the structure of it is, how you came to that structure, how you came to the idea of how this should be seen and experienced by people, and what the challenge of all that was.
The one thing I said to the creatives at the very beginning of this process was that I was not going to make a piece of theater on film. That as a person, as a director, I am always thinking about the marriage of form and content. Like that's just intrinsic in the way that I make theater. And given that the form was changing, the content had to change. Like we could not just take a play and put it inside this form. And I also I'm a bad audience member. I will not stay and watch things. And so I always make things for my own. I'm like, will I watch this? Would I stay and watch this? So given the moment we're in, I was like, what is the attention span of an audience member in the middle of a pandemic? And what is the attention span of an audience as there is incredible social unrest and conversations happening throughout our communities right now? So what is the reason to stay and put your eyes on a screen? And so from the very get-go, I was very clear that I had no interest in making something that was narrative, beginning, middle, and end. It just didn't feel right to me for the moment that we were in. So given those parameters, what was the right way to proceed? And that is how we ended up coming to a writer's room and encouraging this amazing group of alumni writers to get together for a couple of weeks with Lydia and just start to turn out content. And we kept saying, just make it, dream big, write it. We'll figure it out. We'll figure out how to film it. We'll figure out what it can be. Just give us the raw material. And they did, Monty, right? They gave us like stacks of raw material.
Right, and these are alumni of UIC. These writers, yeah.
I mean, and if we're talking about form too, like any other university in the city and the country, their impulse right now is to make stuff on Zoom and in this context, because you get to create something live in this way. There's an intentionality to this piece that I was attracted to from the very beginning of how do we intentionally use the online format as much as possible? So my definition of theater, for example, is that I believe theater is a medium in which people can come and experience something communally. And if they're experiencing an event communally, whether that is digital or online. And in this case, I would say these are short films. Like these are period. Like there's the individual piece and its pieces individually collaged together are short films. But the experience of it is theatrical in the sense that we are putting a link online. We're telling people to go there. That it's going to be released at a certain time and at night, and everyone will come to it live. You have the interactive experience of communal experience of being able to go to these different these different images to kind of
Okay,
like.
well, hold it right there. Hold it right there. So that's what I was talking about. So what's this process, Monty? We're able to choose what we want to see?
So yeah, Jess, how much do we want to talk? So yeah, there's an introduction piece that kind of welcomes us into it, that it automatically plays. But then after that, you're taken to a screen where you get to kind of choose your own adventure. And what we've talked about a lot is like, yeah, the full experience is about probably 70 minutes. We want to say 60, but like if we're being honest, it's 70. Maybe Jess will be like, cut that out. But like it's 60 minutes. And but the fact of the matter is, you know, not everyone's going to sit there at the computer and watch all 60 minutes of it at a time. They might say, hey man, did you watch like this one? Like we should watch, I want to watch this one with you. And there is a communal interactive experience that is happening through the way that you might engage with the piece on your own, or the way you may engage with it as a community, with your friends or family.
We want people to engage with this show in a non-traditional way. And the first step of that is presenting it in a non-traditional way. So there is no one way to watch Reverb. There is no, like, you will not, if you watch it, Rick, and Monty watch it, and I watch it, we will not experience it in the same way. Not only because we're going to have different experiences from watching the pieces, but also we are going to experience the pieces in different orders. And different.
I will say though, we get really excited about someone being like, wait, okay, like let's both click on this one at the same time, and like let's both watch this one at the same time, and that for me also feels very much in the theater form. But I will say, like, these are films, and that also is such an exciting experience that these students got to make films. Some of them got to like hold DSLR cameras and like make the work themselves. So that's a whole skill set that they otherwise would not have gotten.
And the recordings, you know, a lot of like audio recordings, voiceover stuff. I mean, it's been employing like a lot of different skill sets that I think a lot of the UIC students like had an interest in, but had never really like dipped their toe into. And now a lot of them are like, you can see the ones who are like, yes, this is for me. Like there's a part of this that's really exciting.
Yeah, and it opens up for students who are thinking of coming to UIC. I mean, I'm sure that this is cracking open the door for this kind of work to continue in the future.
And don't we all sort of want interdisciplinary studies to become the norm, right? Like I mean, the thing I loved about being on a college campus, right, was getting to take classes in other departments. Like that made me a better artist. The comparative religion class I took, the art history class, like those made me better artists. And I was just lamenting to Monty that like, I wish I had dipped the toe in the film department. At the time, it felt so disparate, but like these devices make it so that everyone can be a filmmaker right now. And I mean, our cast is schooling us all the time. I mean, David Hernandez turns out video content on like a weekly basis.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. It's one of our students. Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, the creativity that's come about just from the students during this process is just, you know, during this quarantine, during the summer, and that they're still doing it, and they're getting out in the park and they're playing and they're doing stuff. I wanted to talk about, we talked about the form of the pieces, and I wonder if you could both talk just a few moments about the content, in the sense that these are pieces that, as I understand it, the directive was to, you know, to write what you're experiencing right now, write what's going on in write what you want to say. And so these are pieces that are coming out of these young you know, they're alumni, as I said, but they're young people, and the current moment of social justice, the current moment of the pandemic, the current moment of everything that's happening right now comes out in these pieces, you know, with a lot of heart and anger and laughter and humor and irony and and a lot of, but I feel when I read them, I felt you know, yeah, I felt like I was just kind of in a room with all of these students, which I know, just kind of, you know, hearing what they have to say about right now.
I mean, I think that if we're going to say that what we're making is paying homage in some way to the way that the internet works, and the like, we reference a lot like the power of TikTok, the power of Instagram, and how essential those platforms are to our students and the way that they engage with both art making and the world, then how could, like, the essential truth about those platforms is they are mirrors to the moment. They are a place to immediately reflect how you are feeling and what you are thinking and where you are. And so we had to make a piece about the moment, and that moment kept changing on us in the course of the process and continues to change. And our writers and our actors and the entire production staff, I think, put a lot of themselves into the creation of the art. You know, they were not afraid to open up and share their personal experiences and be raw and not be afraid. And that is an incredible gift and really remarkable, and really, really remarkable.
I think also when I remember when I first jumped on, Jess, you described like that the first thing that it was going to be about, like, it's like, okay, let's talk about COVID. Let's talk about like how we're living in a COVID world, quarantine. And then the next thing that hit was Black Lives Matter movement. And you're like, okay, this no longer can just be about COVID. This needs to be about Black Lives Matter, And as they wrote, it became more and more that what it was about became more and more expanded to just how Generation Z is responding to this moment. And so many times in the design meetings and everything that we're doing, the format and the way that you watch it, the way that you experience it, the way that we're editing it, we're trying to let Gen Z's impulses lead us. We're trying to let that lead the process and the aesthetic as much as possible.
We're learning a lot from them about that. And I think, and I'm trying to honor that and their own impulses about not putting endings on things, not tying things up in bows, not drawing conclusions, but just being like, this is what I feel right now. This is what it is. And I think that Monty and I, having existed in the theater world as it existed before this moment, and I think that it will be forever changed by this moment. I hope it's forever changed by this moment. I think part of that is recognizing that so long we have put a lot of stock in things being perfect and having a resolution and and that it's okay to be messy and to just ask the questions.
You're already talking about this, but I you know, sort of perhaps a final question I wanted to ask you is this is what I always ask students, but I always ask it of myself too, is what did you discover by doing this, that about yourself and about your work that you want to take with you out of this, that you'll carry with you? And Jessica, you were already sort of saying some of that, but I wonder if there's something else you'd like to add.
I mean, I would just say that, like, if they're going to be this brave, then I better show up, because they, like, every single one of our writers, every single one of our actors, I mean, the fearlessness with which they have proceeded through this process and this moment, that gives me an incredible amount of hope, actually, in a very dark time. They make me so hopeful. And I feel so thankful for that, you know, as their creative partner, but it's just, they are incredibly hopeful. As dark as it is, and as much they are willing to talk about the shit, it's incredibly hopeful.
Yeah, as a millennial, it's strange to me. I'm finding myself in a position where I am way more inspired by Gen Z than the generation that came before me, which I don't think has necessarily always been the case. I think we always think of like, oh, I wish I could be more like the generation that came before me. But but millennials, we're constantly called out by Gen Z people, and we're like, yeah, you're right. Like, you're right. We really should work on that. And I think it's and I don't know. It makes me excited, like really hopeful that maybe millennials can be the first generation that actually works with the next generation versus, to be honest, makes fun of or talks shit about the next generation. I think so many times we get that. So yeah, it was truly inspiring for me.
We're all getting schooled by Gen Z, right? I have Gen Z daughters, so I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So thank you all so much. Thank you both, and it's just been great talking to you and meeting you, and I can't wait to see this project. I just think it's
We got to editing it. We're going to be editing it till the second. Tony Churchill, who is the brilliant mind behind making all the video come together and get edited into the pieces that you'll see. I mean, he will be working till the very last second, right?
The brilliant mind behind storyboarding it, shooting it, editing it. He's a beast. Yeah.
Wow.
We would have had him here with us, but he's too busy making the pieces.
We'll see his magic.
That's right.
Well, thank you again, and everybody. This is another little bit of UIC Backstage, and thank you for watching this, and thank you, Guillermo Duarte, who is our silent partner here, for helping us put all this together. And this is just thrilling. Reverb is going to be so exciting to watch, and I think, as everybody's kind of saying, so they said last week, and you're saying too, it kind of points to a direction for theater that's really, really thrilling. So thank you both so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.